right, welcome to another episode of dot.LA Dives In. I'm Kelly O'Grady, Chief Host and Correspondent at dot.LA. And today we are going to hop into the world of online dating. So I'm joined by CEO and founder of dating app SMore, Adam Cohen-Aslatei. So Adam, thank you so much for taking the time to chat today.
Of course, thanks so much for having me. I love the show.
So back when I was in the dating pool a few years ago in LA, I'm not going to tell you how long ago and date myself, reveal my age, but I'll admit it was not fun. Okay, so LA is super spread out as it is. I lived in Hollywood, and if you were dating someone in Santa Monica, it was basically like a long distance relationship. No fun. And the usual suspects were out there: Tinder, Hinge, just the whole gambit. So now we have SMore, though. So explain to me the concept behind SMore and just kind of walk me through how it works.
Yeah, of course. So I used to live in LA, so I definitely know how you feel. Everything is everyone says, yeah, you can get from anywhere in the city in 20 minutes, maybe 45 minutes.
Yeah, well, during the pandemic, now 20.
That's true. That's true. But then again, everyone got rid of their cars, so they're on scooters, so back to 45. Yeah, so SMore is the world's first anti-superficial relationship app. And what I mean by that is every single dating app that I've ever used, I've worked for the majority of large holding companies in the industry, and I've used so many of these apps. Every single app focuses on the way you look first and foremost. Yeah. So if you don't look beautiful, then it's very hard to get past a bad photo, even though the photo could be taken by a guy who just does not know how to take photos, or even a woman who airbrushes it way too much and she's actually much more beautiful. It doesn't come across very well. So we wanted to create an intentional based app where people are looking for real relationships and they're willing to suspend judgment on a photo to get something more. And by the way, SMore is short for something more. Yeah. Something more is the #1 term that daters use when they give feedback on dating apps because they're looking for more than a surface level relationship. So we bring them the whole package. And what's cool about SMore, if you've ever seen the show Love is Blind, we're very similar to the show in the sense of you get to hear a person's voice on our app first. You also get to listen to their favorite music, and you interact with a profile that feels much more like MySpace than a dating app. And why that's cool and different is because what people loved about MySpace is that your space and MySpace didn't feel like the same space. The problem with dating apps is everyone's space feels the same except for your headshot. So we're creating a sort of discovery environment where we're able to engage with someone on a really fun level and get to know them before the photos unblur. So it feels like you're on the show Love is Blind.
Yeah, well, I think that's such a great point that you make about not being able to take the right picture, and in that instant moment that someone comes to your profile and swipes, you can miss on your the person you were destined to be with just because they had a bad hair day, or it was bad lighting, or it wasn't, Facetune, as we all do now.
That's true.
So, I mean, you kind of touched on it a little bit, but what about the current marketplace and the different dating apps that were out there made you feel like, okay, there's space for SMore and I really need to commit to doing this?
Yeah, so there's a few things. So one, again, I've worked for so many of these companies, but what really got me into wanting to create an anti-superficial relationship app is I met a woman on the beach in Cabo. And this is after spending 10 years working for other app developers and creating very large companies. She was an African-American woman. She was curvy. She was beautiful. And what she told me was shocking. She said, Adam, you have ruined my life. I said, what do you mean? You don't even know me.
That's not what you want to hear on your vacation in Cabo.
Definitely not. But she said to me that as a woman, she felt a pressure to put a version of herself out there that she knew was inauthentic, because every other woman did the same thing, all to attract the attention of a man. So you would airbrush photos, you would say things about yourself that you knew weren't really true, but that would attract a lot of attention. And so what had happened to her is she was on these dating apps for 6 or 7 years. She was catfished, people ghosted her. She met people at bars, they never showed up. It was a horrible experience. And what she said to me was, Adam, I just want a man. Why is it so hard to connect with someone? And it really came, the light bulb moment happened at that point. I was in a bathing suit on the beach, enjoying the sun, and I left. And I went upstairs to my room and I said, my God, there's probably millions of women and also men who feel the same way, that this has really become a beauty contest. It's the average person spends 30 milliseconds on a swipe. That's how much brain power they devote to deciding hot or not. And it's literally hot or not. You should not be choosing your potential spouse or boyfriend based on are they hot or not. If they're not connecting with you emotionally, the hot or not doesn't actually matter. It works if you want a casual encounter. It does not work if you want a relationship. If you want a relationship, you've got to stop judging people. You don't like being judged, and you shouldn't judge others either. And so that's where the concept came from. And so we wanted to delay the picture revealing. And so the more that you chat and engage with a person, the more their photos begin to unblur. And we also added a very interesting feature called blurred video dating. Because in COVID, video becomes the default way to communicate with someone. By the way, I'll tell you this interesting insight. Before COVID, women especially hated video dating, never wanted to use video dating. And it makes sense. It's very invasive. This guy or girl that you don't know is all of a sudden in your most intimate surroundings, in your intimate sense, in your living room, in your bedroom. You don't know him. He doesn't know you. It's so weird. And so, but because of COVID and the inability to meet someone in the real world, how do you become intimate with a person without being with them? So video became the default overnight. And so what had happened was women wanted to use it to get intimate and men love it. But women wanted to use it to get intimate, but there was some trepidation with this kind of technology. So we blurred the image. So the first few minutes of your call are blurred. So if you feel insecure in any way, shape, or form, he doesn't even see you. And what we found was that the conversation length actually increases about 24% because the beginning part of your conversation was blurry, and people are getting into much more detailed conversations quicker than without having a blurred video element into the chat. So it's very cool. And again, it also does add that extra layer of security and protection as well.
And I wanted to touch on one point that you made about this superficiality and that we shouldn't be judged on the way you look. And I think one of the most interesting things about your app that I found is that you actually don't have ethnicity filters and pieces like that, which is quite rare given how some of the other apps work. And I'm curious how you found consumers reacting to that aspect or that feature of SMore.
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, I believe that every mainstream dating app should get rid of race filters and ethnic filters because it doesn't help to create tolerance and understanding of other races. We're having a race conversation in our country right now because the exposure that we have to various races is actually very minimal. Our understanding is very minimal, and we're judging people with prejudice. That's really awful in any year, especially in 2020. And the fact that the majority of these dating apps have race filters and charge for them, they're charging you to allow you to discriminate against other people is awful. But if you look at the data underneath it all, the way that these race filters are being used, 80% of people that use a race filter are using it to filter in white men and white women. Mm-hmm. And what happens is the races that have the least amount of exposure are African American or Black women and Asian men. So for them, the dating experience is actually even worse because very few people are messaging them because they're not being filtered into matches. That really shouldn't be how we choose our boyfriend or girlfriend. We should connect with someone on a deeper level and discover different races and discover what it means to feel to be African American or what it feels to be an Asian man in this country. And beauty comes from magic. And I think trying to walk into a relationship with a clipboard of all these 20 things you want your husband or wife to have or boyfriend or girlfriend to have is not the right way of approaching a relationship. In order for it to work, you have to be vulnerable. You have to put yourself out there, no judgment. Just have a conversation, and I promise you magic happens. A story that I like to tell is one of our first success stories is from this African-American woman. And she wrote an email to us and she says, "Your app changed my life in a week." And I said, "Great to hear, what happened?" So in her email, she describes the fact that she's a millennial Black woman in this country. She's only ever dated Black guys, and her family expects her to marry a Black guy, and her friends are mostly African American. And like she's been on Raya and Tinge and all these other dating apps, and she's still single. She's been there for 5 years, and she connected with this guy on S'more, and she heard his voice, and she said, "Oh my God, so sexy! Like it just is such a turn on." And he likes Marvin Gaye. I love Marvin Gaye, and she listens to his music in the background. She's from Fiji. Just all these really interesting characteristics. And then this is a Thursday night, and she starts talking to him. And it only occurs to her on Friday morning that she actually doesn't know what he looks like. She was just in this massive conversation with him. So she goes back on Friday morning, looks at his profile picture, and she finds out that he's Asian, and she freaks out. And she says, like, I just thought he was black. I mean, in my mind, he was no other color but black. And I didn't know what to do. What would my parents think? What would my friends think? But I was already so into this person. So I said, screw this. I'm going to go on a date. And they're still together. And that's the beauty that happens, because she said, I would have, if I was on a swiping app, there's no way I would have ever swiped on this guy. And it turns out that he's my match. And that's the magic that I'm talking about that happens when you don't go into a relationship with a checklist of attributes, and you really just be confident in who you are and be vulnerable. And that's when you're open and really ready for a relationship, I think. So think about it. If you want a relationship, put the best version of yourself out there that's real though. Don't put the best version of you that's someone else's version of you. Put you, all of you should be out there, and someone should love all of who you are.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I can't tell you the amount of times when I was originally dating in LA where you would chat with someone and then you would show up at the bar or the restaurant or the coffee shop and be like, this is not the person. Physically, emotionally, and it was, you had certain expectations. And so because there was such a gap, there was such a letdown, and I was always like, okay, well, I'm not going on a second date. I thought that this person was completely different. But to your point, if potentially they had marketed themselves authentically, we actually might have gotten to second, third dates and whatnot. So I think that that's a really interesting aspect of S'more, and I love the behavioral rating piece as well. So zooming out a bit, I think something that you have clearly invested a lot of effort and time in is creating your brand. And especially with tons of dating apps out there, and they become known in certain circles as, oh, this is the hookup app, or this is the one that, if you want a relationship, or this is the celebrity dating app and such. How did you think about building your brand and really differentiating it in that space that's already fairly crowded?
Yeah, so I don't believe that a dating app is differentiated by the technology that it uses, because I do feel like very advanced consumer technologies, while cool, aren't really marketable, because in order to get the mass to adopt it, it's got to be intuitive, and it takes years to get to that point. I believe that the way to differentiate a brand in this country, and probably in the world, but definitely in this country, is to build a lifestyle brand, a brand first company, where the positioning is differentiated in and of itself. People will take features and borrow features from us. There are actually a few apps that borrowed. We were the first to market with blurred video dating. It's already been used by a couple other places, the blurred video. Our company is not called the blurred video dating app or the blurred image. Our app says, you deserve something more. Are you ready for something more? And the connotation is being anti-superficial. So if we stand for anti-superficial, then everything we do must support that brand. And so we own that space. So the way that we think about it is really, how do we build products and features that really resonate with not judging someone just based on a headshot? If you do that, then you're building a brand that stands for more than a feature, which allows you to have the longevity. But then it's all about creating content around your brand where people really just enjoy what you do. And it's not necessarily all about using the app, but it's about what's the fun content that resonates with people. So in our case, well, it's COVID. Everyone's home. We watch everything on Netflix. What else do I do? S'more, what else can you do for me? And so we created the celebrity dating show. And it's a really good reflection of our brand, because ultimately, people probably who have the most challenging times to date are celebrities. Everybody wants to be with them. Are they using them? Are they really finding love? And it's also a very superficial world, even more than the rest of us. And so there's a lot of pressures that they face. And we said, let's strip down all these celebrities and get to know them on a real level and let them tell us about their dating experiences and how awful sometimes they are. And let's learn from one another. So what we started was a SMore Live Happy Hour. And this is a weekly show on Instagram where we have celebrities from Housewives, Below Deck. We've had Olivia Culpo on the show last week. And everyone's talking about their crazy dating stories. We're playing hilarious dating games, but we're also providing useful tips based upon the celebrity's experience dating, what not to do. Please learn from me. Don't make my mistakes.
I love SMore Happy Hour. It's fun, like you say. It's so great to see celebrities have the same type of problems that you do. So it just makes you feel a little less alone. Like, okay, this person got stood up, got ghosted. I'm a huge Olivia Culpo fan, so I loved that one last week that you two did. I'm digging in a little bit on that. What has been the most impactful celebrity interview that you've done? Because in addition to some of the dating pieces, you also are talking about some issues that are related to dating, but also our society is struggling with.
Yeah, look, I think that it's a kind of a forum to bring up what's happening in the world and sort of disguise it a bit under dating. Really to have a fun conversation and for the fans of the celebrity to get to know them in a different way rather than something that's a little bit more, not manufactured, but handled, for lack of a better term. So there's been a few different celebrities that have said things that really resonate with me. And I think one of them, some of them are funny, some of them are more dramatic. We also have viewers writing questions, and we have the celebrity answer the question. And some of these are very intense dating questions. Olivia Culpo's dating question was about a woman who felt very insecure with her body because her boyfriend was telling her that he likes her with a bigger behind, curvier, and all these other things. And she felt like she was happy. So why is he not happy with the way that I look? And one thing that she said that I think really resonated with the audience is the most important relationship that you have in life is with yourself. If you're not going to be happy with who you are in yourself, then you're not going to be ready for a relationship. And if this guy is not happy with yourself, then he probably is not the right person for you. So like those kinds of pieces of advice are really words of wisdom. We had Sutton Strack from the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and she says, the one thing I always bring with me on a date is a stainless steel cheese cutter. In case things get dangerous, I can knock him on his head with this cheese cutter. And we had Elise Slane on from the Real Housewives of New York City, and she was telling us about her craziest dating story in Central Park, where she was on a blind date with this guy, and his dog pooped in the park and didn't have anything to clean it up with. So I know you guys in LA may have never been to Central Park, but you have to clean up your dog's poop.
Yeah.
So he grabs a leaf and the poop seeps out of the leaf, and he has nothing to wipe his hands with because he forgot to bring paper towel with him. Then they go and they have their picnic at Central Park, and he uses the same hand because he forgot utensils to pick up a piece of chicken and put it on her plate, and she's freaking out at this point. And it's like, we've all had these crazy dating stories, and they seem real. They seem crazy, but they seem real. And I think the authenticity of these stories and of SMore Live really resonates with the general public, and it's so much fun to do.
Oh, I can't believe that story. The way you tell it, the specific imagery is so real.
If you rewatch the episode, so we saved all the episodes to Instagram Live, I was on the floor dying of laughter, and I just couldn't believe that this really happened to her. And she said the chicken was gray.
Oh.
It was just, I could picture this happening in New York City.
So I'm curious, virtual dating has everyone still a little bit on edge, going back to our earlier conversation about letting someone into that intimate space. You might be talking to them in your bedroom, you're still on video chat, but they're seeing these aspects of it. What are some tips that you have for the LA singles when it comes to dating during COVID?
LA men and women, listen up. So this is very important advice because I don't think virtual dating is not normal. It feels so strange, but all of a sudden we have to do it. Otherwise, we're not going to be connecting with someone. So the first thing that I say is when you're chatting with someone, whether it's on video or whether it's text through the actual app, reveal something personal about yourself early on, because revealing something personal about yourself gets the other person to open up a lot quicker. You'll know if it's connection much sooner. The second thing I would say is you should definitely do a video date. Hopefully you're using a blurred video date on SMore, but do a video date. When you think about doing a video date, think that it's a regular date. Pretend that you're going in real life to meet this person on a date. Take a shower, men, I'm speaking to you. Take a shower. Women and men, dress up. If you're a woman and you put on makeup or you do your hair, treat it like a real date. Go to the date in a correct format, in a correct way. And that will also get you sort of in the mood to connect with someone. I think thirdly, it's important to, when you're on that next date, secure date number 2. If things are going well, then plan, okay, so this has been going, this is going on really great. I'm really interested in it. What about next week I order you dinner and we do a virtual dinner date together? Or what if we do a virtual house tour? Or what if I invite you to my Crossy Roads or Animal Crossing Island, which is on Nintendo Switch, which has become a very popular virtual dating activity where people invite each other to their islands, and you kind of get a tour of someone's island and their virtual home and all of their Fendi clothes that they can dress up on the island. And then, have a good time. You're really connecting with someone. It is weird for everyone to do this, but get creative.
Well, I love the one about secure the next date, because I've definitely been in that world where, oh, it went so well. And then you wonder, okay, who's going to make the next move? And it just ends up, you text back and forth about nonsense, and it gets very frustrating. Another question I wanted to ask you. So, I mean, obviously, we're in a weird time. We're all hoping that COVID goes away sooner rather than later. But how do you see the online dating space evolving in the next couple of years? Has COVID permanently changed how singles are going to interact, or will you see a swing back, do you think?
So in short, no swing back. This is the new normal. And by the way, it's good because prior to COVID, especially millennials and Gen Zers, look, I'm a millennial myself, so I'm not pointing fingers, but we have tended to treat relationships as if they were disposable. When you can swipe on anyone, if you're on some of the LGBTQ apps, anyone will show up at your house, you'll have a fun night, but we don't treat people with any level of respect in general. And I think that now that we have COVID and the global pandemic, we're starting to reflect on things that we don't have. And for 50% of millennials, they're completely single. So you might have a great job, you might have a great set of friends, but during COVID, you're home alone. And that's not a good feeling. And so I think it allows us to emerge from COVID with a different level of respect for people, for humanity, and for relationships, and treating people with a level of respect that they deserve. Everyone deserves common decency. And so from that, what we see is the majority of users or the majority of online daters are going to spend much more time vetting someone on the outset before they meet in the real world. So 66% of women say they're going to vet their dates much more thoroughly, duration-wise, before they meet them in the real world. 66% of women. So virtual dating is not going anywhere. It's basically becoming the way that you screen, should I meet this person? Is it worth my time to leave my house? And that's a good thing because it actually means the first date is going to be a lot less awkward because you know so much more about this person. So that's positive. Second thing we're seeing is that 42% of all online daters are looking for something more serious post-COVID, 42%. Only 18% want something casual and the rest don't know what they want. So it's actually quite a big shift in about 20 percentage points to more long-term and substantial relationships, which makes sense given that people feel alone and they want something a little bit more substantial. And I think the other thing is people are willing to do distance dating. Whereas in the past, majority of these apps are based on location. So if you're on Grindr as an example, or you're on Tinder, you literally can see the feet away that someone else is distance away from you. And that actually helps if you're looking for a casual encounter. It doesn't really work so well, or it's not even relevant. If you want a long-term relationship, by the way, LA, listen to this. If you live in Beverly Hills, you could actually date someone at Echo Park. If you live in Century City, you can date someone in Venice Beach. You can drive 30 minutes away. Even Orange County seems far, it's really not that far. If he's the right person for you or she's the right person for you, get in your car and drive 45 minutes. So what we're seeing is now 40% of users say they're willing to date someone outside of their city limits, which we've never ever seen before in the industry. So we think that this is going to change because now it seems that people are really looking for more compatibility than simply just location. And that's a great thing for all types of relationships.
Yeah, I think you really make a good point when it comes to LA, because originally, before people, currently would do a video date to start, a virtual date, you would say, I'm not going to drive an hour for an awkward cup of coffee on a Sunday when I have my laundry to do, or I could go hang out with my best friend and go see a movie. There's such a high barrier when you don't know what that person is like to taking that plunge. And who knows, that person could have been amazing. But with the virtual dating, you actually get to know them and you're much more invested of, oh yeah, I really do want to go drive and see this person. So I think you're right. It will transform how LA engages in that type of activity. Well, I think there's nothing more for us to do than go check out the app. So we're linking below a direct link to SMore in the App Store. So definitely check it out. If you're looking for love, but also friendship too. I think, Adam, you've met, I've seen a piece where you said that you went on a friendship date before.
With Oprah Winfrey's makeup artist.
Okay, well, we all got to get on that app right now.
So the thing is, first of all, we have so many housewives at Beverly Hills on our app and so many Bravo celebrities from LA on the app. The people quality is really high. Yes, you can use it for friends as well. It's also one of the fastest growing apps in this country, and it did not exist 6 months ago. So check it out, download it, you'll love it, and send me reviews, send me your feedback. We're always looking to change the product, make it even more fun and engaging, but I promise you, it won't feel like using any of the apps that you've ever used before. So if you're ready for something that works, go check it out.
Awesome. Well, Adam, thank you so much for joining me today. I had such a fun time chatting about horrible dating experiences and how SMore is trying to address that. I wish it were around when I was in that pool. It would have made things a lot easier. Thanks so much, Adam, for joining me today. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much.